American imperialism in Guatemala. When Jacobo Arbenz became president, he was seen as a hero. After long lines of dictatorship, he was a democratic president who promised to take care of the poverty and make land reforms that would benefit them. Arbenz reformed Decree 900 uncultivated land from landholdings that were larger than 673 acres. The owners were compensated with government bonds, so Arbenz thought that 40% of the United Fruit Company's land should be expropriated, and approximately 500,000 people benefited from the decree. The United Fruit Company was a corporation that traded in tropical fruit, primarily bananas, grown on third world plantations and sold in the United States and Europe. Known by the natives as El Lupo, it owned vast tracts of all land across Latin America, and soon became a business deal for many people, including U.S. Senator John Foster Dulles and his brother, Director of the CIA, Allen Dulles. Both brothers had ties to the United Fruit Company, so it was easy to convince them to take action. Overall, the company spent over $500,000 to convince lawmakers and the American public that the Guatemalan government needed to be overthrown. Soon the Dulles brothers and the United Fruit Company convinced the Eisenhower administration to invade. But this wasn't the first attempt for invasion. In 1952, U.S. President Harry Truman authorized the CIA to effect a Guatemalan coup d'etat. Soon the U.S. got support from Anastasio Somoza Garcia, the dictator of Nicaragua, and the President Marco Pérez Jiménez of Venezuela. And lastly, Carlos Castillo Armez from Guatemala. The U.S. trained peasant militias as well as government militias against Arbenz. Arbenz looked for weapons left and right and could only find them in Czechoslovakia, a communist country. But the U.S. informed army chiefs of the shipment, forcing Arbenz to hand them over to the military and deepening the rift between him and his top generals. Finally, the U.S. invaded and Arbenz was put into resignation. Following the coup, Arbenz was declared president and set about reversing land reforms that benefited poor farmers. He also removed voting rights for illiterate Guatemalans. Soon the years of peace were only a memory. Guatemala had fallen into a civil war. The war went from 1960 to 1996. Killing of defenseless people became state policy, and almost 15 years after the end of the Civil War, violence and intimidation continued to be a major problem in political and civilian life.